Hello everyone and welcome back to the Nut House. So today I'm going to show you one of the first recipes for baking bread that I've ever tried, and it's my favorite for dinner rolls. I've made this countless times for Christmas, for Thanksgiving, for Easter. It is so delicious. We're going to start with 1 cup of milk. Now I'm using whole milk because I like the full fat version in my baked goods. It makes a better roll or bread to me. And I'm going to use a half a stick of butter, and I'm going to get that in the microwave and get that melted down. And we're going to use the bread machine today, but just like always, you don't have to use a bread machine. You can use, a stand mixer or a bowl, your hands. I'm just using this because it heats it for me, and my house is a little cool today, so this will help it rise quicker. About an hour and 30 minutes is the dough cycle. We're going to add 1/3 of a cup of sugar to our pan, 1 teaspoon of salt, and then I'm going to refill my jar here of yeast. I like to keep my yeast in the freezer, but I do have a jar that I keep out here on the counter because I do bake bread so frequently. So this is the microwave got this pretty hot, so I'm going to go ahead and stir it up so it can start cooling off before I add 3 eggs to the mixture. So I'm going to crack the eggs. These are my eggs for my chickens. I'm so excited that they have started to lay. And we have our own fresh eggs again, because eggs are really expensive right now at the store. And we just love chickens anyway. They're so fun to watch. I like to sit out there in the summer sometime in a chair and just watch them peck around. That's always so fun. So now we're going to add the eggs into the liquid here. The last thing in our bread machine that we're going to add is the yeast, because the flour goes next. So we're going to go ahead and add that into our machine, and then we'll add 4 cups of flour and 2.5 teaspoons of instant yeast. I always use instant yeast. I never use the activated kind. That's just what I prefer. So if you remember, I got this bread machine for $10 at the thrift store, and I really like to use it to make my dough. However, this machine doesn't do as well with a lot of dough as it would a small amount of dough. Like the brioche buns that I make just for dinner, they, the kneading hook always does well with it. So on this one, I just help it a little bit by using a spatula and going along the inside and stirring it around to try to help some of the liquid and the flour combine. Now I want this dough to come together, and I want the sides of the pans to be clear. It will still be a little loose on the bottom. There's a fine line to me between a dough that is too dense by using too much flour and too loose and it's too sticky. Now, if I had to pick one, I had rather it be sticky than I had be dry, because no one wants a hockey puck for a dinner roll. So you'll see on here that it's a little bit loose for me, and I'm just going to sprinkle a little flour in until it actually forms into a ball and not just a big blob. I don't know how to describe it, but you'll see it'll start come together. So I would say the less is better when it comes to bread. I can always add some flour toward the end, which you will see me do because the dough is still a little sticky, but it's going to make a really soft dough and a really soft roll. And if you add too much flour, you're going to have a hard roll, which to me is no good. So err on the side of a little too loose. You see how it's coming together, but it's still a little loose. So just sprinkle in some flour and wait a little bit until you get the right consistency. It's really not that hard. After you do it a couple times, you'll know what you're looking for. But at the beginning, just err on the side of loose is a little better than too dry. So now I have this deep dish 9x13. I'm going to go ahead and spray it with a little bit of olive oil, and we're going to go ahead and roll out our rolls. So I do not want to add any more flour than I have to. So I'm going to start with spraying my surface. However, it was a little sticky, so I decided to add some flour, or get some flour and add it to my hands. I definitely don't want to add it to the dough, because it's going to make it, the more dough, the more flour you add to the dough, the more dense your dough could turn out to be. So I'm just going to pinch a roll off, or pinch a piece of dough off. This is all, how big do you want your roll? If you want to measure it, you can look up online. They'll tell you how many grams each dinner roll should be, but I'm not really worried about that right now. So what I'm going to do is just pinch off some, and then I'm going to roll it. Now I want to make sure that the seam on the bottom basically disappears, and I'll show you. I usually pinch it and kind of pull it onto itself, as you see me doing here, and then pinch the bottom. And sometimes you can roll it in your hand, or you can either roll it on the countertop, and you just want that seam on the bottom to disappear. I'm going to continue to do this, and I want my rolls close together, because the closer they are together, when they rise, they're not crunchy around the exterior, but they're soft and fluffy. And so even if you're using a cast iron skillet, make sure that they are bunched up pretty close together. So we're going to continue to fill these up, and then we're going to let them rise for another hour. And then after that, we'll come back and bake them. Now, I have made these the day before and left them in the refrigerator to do an overnight rise, and then pull them out about an hour or two before I want to bake them and go ahead and bake them, and they are delicious that way too, especially if you're, having dinner or you're having to cook more for dinner than just this. It just saves some time to go ahead and let them do a rise in the refrigerator. So I'm going to take an egg and I'm just going to mix it up, and I'm going to paint. What word was I thinking? I'm trying to think, what would you call that? We're just going to top the rolls with an egg wash, and then we'll get them in the oven on 375 degrees, I would say for 20 to 25 minutes, but start looking at it at about 15 to 20 minutes. And I always like to use a thermometer and measure mine, so I want it to be almost 200 degrees. It doesn't have to make it exactly 200, but 180 to 200 is where I want it to be when it's done, because it'll still cook a little bit anyway sitting, you know, on the counter. So we're gonna just add an egg wash, get them in the oven, and when they come out, we'll put some butter on them. Now at this point you can add garlic powder, rosemary, any kind of spices or seasonings that you want. This, you could add it now. I use garlic a lot on top, or garlic and Parmesan cheese with some oregano for if I'm gonna have a, you know, dinner that's Italian. Or you can just do them plain like I have here, and then when I pull them out, we'll top them with butter. And I didn't show it on the video, but I did drizzle some honey over the top of them, and they were so good that way. It's like a honey butter bread. I mean, you can't beat that, right? So here they are coming out of the oven, and they are beautiful. So this night I served them with barbecue chicken, potato salad, some broccoli and cheese that I had roasted. And I'll have a video soon of that dinner and how quick and cheap it is to make that. I'm all about frugal meals here, but I do like to cook from scratch, and I like to know, you know, what I'm eating. And these dinner rolls cannot be beat. I've tried so many recipes, and this one is always my favorite for dinner rolls. Now I have favorites for other things too, but dinner rolls, this is the best in my opinion. So here I'm going to cut one and put some butter in it, and look how soft they are. They are really, really good. I hope you get a chance to try this recipe, and if you do, let me know how they turn out. Thanks again for watching. We'll see you on the next one.